We're going to talk briefly about outlining, creating an outline before you start the writing process. There are a few guiding questions that we want to follow as we talk about this. First, why should you create an outline? Second, how do you create an outline? And third, how can an outline benefit your writing process? In response to the question, why should you create an outline, there are many reasons why you might consider creating an outline before you actually begin the writing process. Some of the most important ones are this. An outline aids in the writing process primarily because it helps you to organize your ideas. It presents your material in a logical form, so it takes those ideas that you've organized and it helps you to present them in a way that makes sense to a reader. Also, it shows the relationships among the ideas in your writing, so it allows you to start defining boundaries and groups so that you present, once again, your information in a logical, cohesive fashion. Finally, it helps you to construct an ordered overview of your writing. It allows you simultaneously to see the scope of your paper as well as the sequence that your paper may start to take on. You may be wondering how you can create an outline. To get started, there are a few simple steps that you can follow. First, you want to determine the purpose of your paper. For example, are you writing a compare and contrast paper? Or are you writing something like a narrative, more like a narrative? Is your task to create a descriptive piece? Are you writing a research paper? Or are you composing an analysis paper? What is the actual function of your paper? Before you can really begin to outline it, you need to determine what is the purpose of your paper. You also need to determine the audience for which you are writing. And finally, you need to develop the thesis for your paper. Once you have those steps completed, there are a few more steps that you want to start to think about. First, you'll want to brainstorm. You'll want to list all the ideas that you want to include in your paper. At this point, don't worry about the order that those ideas take on. Don't worry really about organization or how you're going to put those ideas together. Just get all the ideas down that you'd like to include in your paper so that you can then go on to start organizing them. Once you have all of your ideas brainstormed, that's when you start to organize them. So you want to start to group your related ideas together. Think about the relationships between your ideas and consider the logical connections between them. In this way, you can begin to create groups that make sense, groups of ideas that might make sense to your reader. Once you have your ideas organized into groups that are logical and cohesive, you'll want to decide on the order in which you'll present that information. When you do this, remember that your form has to equal your function. We'll talk a little bit about this later, but for example, if you're creating a compare and contrast paper, the outline you can create for your compare and contrast paper may look slightly different than an outline that you might prepare for an analysis paper or a research paper. So keep that in mind. Finally, you'll want to start to label these ideas and label these orders. You'll create main and subheadings in order to do this. One new mantra that I want you to keep in mind as you begin to create an outline for your papers is that by this time in your writing career, one topic does not necessarily equal one paragraph. We'll talk a little bit more about this later as well, but again, a reminder that one topic does not necessarily equal one paragraph.